The first time Dolores Whitman screamed in my face, a tornado siren was already howling outside, and somehow she thought the real emergency was my siren hurting property values. You'd think I was blasting death metal at 3 a.m. instead of warning people that a storm could rip their roofs off, but that's HOA logic for you. Now here's the part that still makes my blood boil when I think about it. The woman demanding I silence a life-saving warning system during tornado season just happened to be married to the guy who owned the biggest storm damage repair company in the county. Yeah, you heard that right. Every house flattened by a tornado meant another fat insurance payout for her husband. And my little early warning system, that gave families time to protect themselves, which meant fewer destroyed homes, which meant less money for them. That's when I realized something ugly about Willowbrook Estates. The fight wasn't about noise, it was about profit. But let me back up a little, because 3 months before all this chaos started, I thought I'd finally found peace. My name's Marcus Blackwood. I spent 30 years as a meteorologist chasing storms across Oklahoma and Kansas. If you've ever watched radar loops at 3 in the morning while a supercell spins toward a town full of sleeping families, you learn something real fast. Early warning saves lives. No debate, no politics, just physics. My wife Sarah and I moved to Willowbrook Estates after 18 brutal months fighting her cancer. Chemo hospital rooms, the smell of antiseptic, and fear, the whole nightmare. When her doctor finally said the word remission, we packed our lives into boxes and bought a small house outside Tulsa. All we wanted was quiet, fresh air, normal mornings, the smell of cut grass instead of hospital disinfectant. The first thing I built after moving in was a 40-foot tornado siren tower behind the house. Cost me $12,000. NOAA certified system, solar backup, independent battery pack. If radar ever detected rotation nearby, the thing would scream loud enough to wake half the subdivision. The day I installed it, Sarah stood in the driveway watching me bolt the last panel into place. The wind smelled like cedar from the new fence we'd just finished building. She took a slow breath and said softly, "Now I feel safe." That moment right there, that's why I never took the thing down. Most of our neighbors loved it. The Hendersons next door had twin toddlers and told me the siren helped them sleep easier. Old Pete Martinez across the street, Vietnam vet, tough as boot leather, just nodded and said, "Preparation beats regret." But then there was Dolores. Dolores Whitman, 48 years old, perfect hair, white Escalade, real estate agent, HOA president, and a woman who treated the neighborhood like her personal kingdom. 3 days after the siren went up, I found a violation notice tucked under my windshield wiper. Fancy cream-colored paper, the kind that feels expensive for no reason. Unapproved structure exceeding height limits. I actually laughed out loud, because I had permits, county approval, emergency services authorization, and the HOA Architectural Committee had already signed off. Oklahoma law even protects meteorological equipment from HOA interference. When I explained that to Dolores on the phone, she didn't care. "I wasn't properly consulted," she snapped. "It's destroying property values." Click. That was the beginning of the war. Within a week, she started issuing fines, $500 a month for noise violations. Which was funny, considering the siren had never actually activated. Then I discovered the twist that made everything click. Dolores's husband, Brad, owned Sooner Storm Solutions, the biggest storm damage restoration company in the county. Every time a tornado shredded a neighborhood, Brad's crews made millions rebuilding houses. Suddenly, her obsession with killing early warning systems made a lot more sense. Sarah found me staring at the fine notice one night while thunder rolled across the plains. They scheduled an emergency HOA vote, I told her. When? Thursday. She went pale. "That's my chemo appointment," Dolores knew. She chose the one day she knew I couldn't attend. That night I started documenting everything. Emails, letters, violation notices, phone calls. At the time I thought I was fighting petty HOA tyranny. Turns out I was building evidence for a federal case. The meeting went exactly how Dolores planned. Packed room. Her real estate friends voting like obedient little soldiers. 12 votes to ban the siren. 48 hours to remove it. Daily fines after that. I could have backed down. Most people would have. But my father had been a small-town lawyer, and he drilled one thing into my head when I was a kid. When bullies use the law to scare you, learn the law better than they do. So I started digging, and oh man, the things I found. Turns out Tulsa City Code completely exempts emergency warning systems from noise laws. Completely. When a city inspector showed up after Dolores complained, I handed him the ordinance. He read it, looked embarrassed, and called her right there in my driveway. "Ma'am," he said, "this system is fully legal." You could practically hear the rage through the phone. That should have ended it. But Dolores escalated. Lawyers, threats, foreclosure notices. That's when my attorney Patricia got involved. After reading their letters, she leaned back in her chair and said, "Marcus, this isn't just wrong, it's aggressively stupid." Then came the twist none of us expected. One night, while reviewing drone footage of the neighborhood, I noticed something interesting. Dolores's house had a huge deck extension. Beautiful build. One problem. no permit, which meant the HOA president threatening me over legal equipment was breaking actual building codes herself. I didn't report it. Not yet. Sometimes the best evidence is the kind you save for later. Meanwhile, something incredible started happening. The neighbors began choosing sides. The Hendersons started a counter-petition supporting the Siren. Pete Martinez printed flyers explaining emergency preparedness laws. Even quiet Mrs. Patterson, 80 years old and sweet as pie, told Dolores flat out, "I'd rather have a warning than worry about property values when I'm dead." The neighborhood was waking up. Then the storm season hit. One Sunday evening, the sky turned that sick green color every Oklahoman recognizes. Supercell forming. My siren activated for the first real emergency. Families ran to shelter. Kids grabbed pets. Basement doors slammed. The system worked exactly how it was supposed to. Dolores, of course, was out of town that weekend. Funny how that works. When she came back Monday morning, she was furious. She showed up with 2 lawyers and a stack of papers threatening foreclosure again. That was when things started falling apart for her. Because during all my research, I'd uncovered something darker. Brad's company had been systematically overcharging storm victims, 43% above market average, insurance kickbacks, inflated repair contracts, and the worst part, internal emails discussing how early warning systems reduce profits. They were actively trying to suppress weather alerts. Let that sink in. People were dying in storms and someone was treating that like a business model. I took the evidence straight to a property attorney. She looked at the documents, then at me and said 4 words that changed everything. "Marcus, this is Rico. Racketeering, federal crime." Suddenly, my little HOA fight wasn't little anymore. The FBI got involved. And that's where things got real interesting. They asked me to wear a wire at the next HOA meeting because weather reports were showing something big forming that week. A perfect storm setup. Supercells likely. Tornado potential high. If Dolores tried to silence the siren during an actual warning, that would be evidence no jury could ignore. Thursday night, the clouds rolled in like something out of a disaster movie. The HOA meeting started right as thunder shook the windows. Dolores stood at the podium smiling like she'd already won. "Our first order of business," she said, "is removing Marcus Blackwood's illegal siren." Right then, the weather radio crackled. "Tornado warning. 7 miles southwest. Seek shelter immediately." My siren activated automatically. The mechanical howl filled the room. Neighbors froze. Dolores screamed, "Turn that thing off." Pete Martinez stood up. "Lady, that's a tornado warning." "I don't care," she shouted. "We're voting to ban it right now." That moment with the storm outside and the warning blaring, she exposed everything. The FBI agent sitting 3 rows back quietly activated her camera. And just like that, Dolores Whitman handed federal prosecutors the case on a silver platter. The vote passed anyway. But before she could celebrate, the agent stood up. "FBI, Dolores Whitman, you're under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, and racketeering." And as those handcuffs clicked, the tornado hit her street. Not the whole neighborhood, just her block. Through the clubhouse windows, we watched the funnel rip the roof clean off her house like opening a tin can. Brad arrived minutes later right into waiting FBI agents. The irony was almost poetic. The people who tried to silence the warnings lost the only house that ignored them. Here's the part that matters most, though. Because of the warning system and backup alerts I installed, 0 people died that night. Not one. 6 months later, the court case wrapped up. Dolores got 8 years. Brad got 6 plus $4 million in restitution. Their whole network collapsed. The state legislature even passed a new law protecting private weather warning systems. Folks around here call it Marcus's Law now. But the real lesson I took from all of it, this fight was never about noise, or property values, or HOA rules. It was about control. Small power in the wrong hands turns dangerous real fast. And bullies don't stop when you reason with them. They stop when there are consequences. So now I'm curious, if someone in your neighborhood tried to shut down a safety system just to protect profits, would you fight back? Or would you stay quiet and hope the storm misses your house? Drop your story in the comments. I'd honestly like to hear it. Because if this whole mess taught me anything, it's that the smaller the authority, the more dangerous it becomes when nobody challenges it.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video. Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.